Mavic, they have the Phantom, and then they have the Inspire, and then they also have some other systems where you can put a full DSLR or professional camera on it. But most of us are going to be using one of their drones that has the camera that's built in, like the Spark, the Mavic, or the Phantom. The Inspire is a tier up, and that's right now between $2,000 and $3,000. And one of the cool things about that drone is that you can actually operate the camera via a second remote. So one person can be flying, and the other person can be manning the remote. The camera and the drone that we are going to be using in this class is the Phantom 4 Pro. So they have all kinds of different models. They're still selling the Phantom 3 on their website. They've got the Phantom 4, and then they've also got the Phantom 4 Pro. And then depending on what package you get, you might get a remote that has a screen on it built in, or you might have to use a tablet or your own mobile device as the remote control viewer. Here's the Phantom Pro 4 Plus remote, which has the screen built in, which is one of the best things that has come to drones. We've used the Inspires, we've used the Mavics, and it was almost a little annoying to have to connect your phone every time and waste your phone's battery. Now this is all built in, and the screen is super high resolution. It's very bright, so when you're out in the field, it's super easy to see this even on a bright sunny day. In terms of the differences between a model like the Phantom 4 and one of the lower tier models like the Mavic and the Spark, there are a few main differences. One is the camera itself. With the Phantom 4 Pro, you're getting a 20 megapixel camera. So remember back in our camera anatomy section, well, you have camera sensor sizes and resolution. That's what we're talking about, 20 megapixels. With the Spark and the Mavic, the current models have a 12 megapixel camera. Still an amazing camera that will allow you to take amazing photos, but it doesn't have the quality of the Phantom, and it won't have that dynamic range, the ability to capture the darks and the highlights, as well as something like the Phantom. The Phantom Pro also has a longer flight time, so per battery it has about 30 minutes of flight time. The other models have between 15 and 20 minutes, and it's more important for video, which all of these cameras have the capability of doing. But with something like the Spark and the Mavic, if it's a really windy day, you're going to be a little bit more wobbly and shaky, and you might not even want to test the waters or test the air anyways and fly in a windier day. But with the Phantom Pro, I was comfortable going out to the beach on a windy day, and it was still very steady. And then just speaking of video itself, all of these cameras do come with the video option. We don't really cover too much of the video in this class because it is a photography class, but you can shoot amazing video in the air with these drones. You can shoot high quality 4K video instant because you can play around and see what the settings are and see how you like it before actually making that investment. Anyways, if you have any question about the experience itself, let us know in the question section of this class, and we'd be happy to help you out. And we'll see you in the next lesson. Here are your tips for shooting better drone and aerial photos. Tip number 1, remember your basic photography settings and rules. This is still photography at its core. It's just shooting photos at a different angle and from a different perspective. So remember, you want to expose properly, you want to compose a nice image, use your rules like the rule of thirds, level horizons, leading lines, and shapes, which is really big with aerial photography because you're so far up in the sky that you'll see lots of cool new shapes and lines that you can capture. But most importantly, tell a story. I know that when I first got the drone and started getting into drone photography, it was just fun to get up in the sky and take photos of really whatever direction I was looking at. And it actually looked pretty cool. But the best photos are the ones that tell a story, that you pick a subject, you compose it properly, and you do try to tell that story with your photography. Tip number 2, following up on having a good subject and a good story with your photo, is to choose the right location. You want to make sure that it's safe. Make sure that you're allowed legally and technically to fly your drones in that area. Make sure you aren't harassing anyone. You've got to follow the laws, and we'll talk more about that in just a second. But mainly just finding a location that is safe so that you don't have to worry about any of those things, and you can focus on your photography. You can focus on composing that subject in a way that looks great. Also, finding a location without too many distractions. This can be hard when you're flying up in the sky because you're looking down at the earth and there's lots of stuff going on, especially in busy places like cities. So it might be good to go to a location that is a little bit more simple and finding a subject that doesn't have as many distractions so that in those photos, the viewer is really drawn to whatever your subject is. Tip number 3 is to be prepared. This means having your batteries charged, making sure your equipment all works, having extra batteries, having extra propellers in case you do have a minor accident, or if one of your propellers isn't working. It's always good to have backups of both the batteries and the propellers. You want to make sure that you know how to fly the drone, practice it, go practice it. It in a big open field before you go out and shoot in a busy street. You don't want to get into any trouble or hurt anyone. I mean, that's really all legalities aside. You definitely don't want to hurt anyone or any property with your drone. So make sure that you're practicing and then have a plan. Estimate the flight. Times, estimate how long it's going to take for you to get up into the sky and take your photo. I know it's a little hard to know exactly what your composition might be from down on the ground, but it's a good idea to have your photo in mind so you, as soon as you get up in the air, you can take that photo and not waste any time because these drone batteries don't last that long. Tip number 4 is to look for symmetry and patterns. Especially with drone photography, this is one of the compositional rules or techniques that I like to use, especially from up in the sky. You can see some cool patterns made by the landscape of our beautiful Earth, and also with symmetry, both with the landscape, with buildings, any man-made objects. Look for those two things to take some great, interesting photos. Tip 5 is to look for some interesting shadows. If you're shooting at golden hour, which we always recommend trying to shoot at golden hour if you can, because the lighting tends to look better, at least in our opinion. If you do shoot at golden hour, the shadows are going to be longer and a little bit more dramatic, and especially if your landscape has some sort of difference in height, if you're shooting buildings or if you're shooting mountains or hillsides or cliffs or anything really, you'll get some cool shadows, and that will result in really neat photos. And then our last tip, which is really the most important tip and should probably be our number one tip, is to follow the rules and regulations of wherever you live. The rules are different in every country, in every city, in every state, and so you are required, you are responsible for making sure that you are being a law-abiding citizen. Drones, while they are fun, they're a toy, they are a tool, they are also dangerous, and they can seriously hurt people or property if you don't know how to use them, or if you just have a freak accident. So make sure that if you need a commercial license, you get that. If you don't need one, make sure that whatever you're doing doesn't require any sort of license. Make sure that you practice some of the common rules right now, which might change in the future. So it's up to you to make sure that you follow the rules. You can't fly above 400 feet. You have to fly in your sight line, so you have to be able to see the drone at all times. You can't fly within 5 miles of an airport without their permission. You can't take photographs of people or their property, any private property, without their permission. So these are just a few things to keep in mind. Of course, these things change, and like I keep saying, this might be different where you live. So it's up to you to make sure that you follow the rules. In this section, we will include links to 2 websites that are very helpful, especially in the United States, Know Before You Fly, and also the federal government's website. Let's go take some aerial photos. So the first thing that I want to do is do some research and preparation, just like we talked about in the tips for this section. We want to find a place that is both legal and safe to fly, and also something that